Do you want to become an Apex Predator? Are you looking to improve your Valkyrie gameplay? Well, you've come to the right place because, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ollie and I'm going to be sharing with you my 5 seasons of experience playing this legend. So let's start off nice and simple so everyone can understand. The VTOL jets, the passive. This is probably the best passive in the game. It allows you to use a jetpack in multiple different ways to maneuver around the map. I'm going to be going more in depth in a second here. Next up is the tactical. Now this allows you to shoot a swarm of missiles and essentially arc star stun a target for a little bit and deal some damage. This is very good in a multitude of different ways, and I'm going to be discussing that in a second. Next up is the ultimate. This essentially allows you to become a portable balloon for your teammates. You can redeploy solo or with a squad, and it allows you to maneuver around the map wherever you choose. This is extremely helpful in ranked, in pubs, and like I said, there's going to be a lot more in depth going on later in the guide. First thing you need to know, please go to your settings right now and change your jetpack control from toggle to hold. This will allow you to do multiple different movement techniques, including super gliding, wall bouncing, bunny hopping, and just having easier control over the jetpack. It will allow you to jump off higher surfaces without accidentally pressing the jetpacks and flying to your unfortunate demise. Another tip you can see me utilizing here is canceling my flight animation with a mantle. This is extremely useful, and you should never fly above a surface. Always mantle to it. It's going to get your gun out quicker and allow you to shoot faster. Since they took out animation canceling, this is the best way to do this. Another way to cancel this animation is to literally fly into a wall, and the second you stop flying, you hit X and bounce off it. It will immediately pull out your weapon. If you press triangle before you hit the wall and wall bounce, it will insta swap your weapon, which is super useful, and that is another tip. A good way to think about Valkyrie's jets is to use it as an escape tool primarily. You want to stay low to the ground because you're going to get shot if you just hold the flight. So think of it like an extended jump kind of. And if you pair it with something like a super glide, you can do some crazy outplay maneuvers and go really far with way less fuel consumption. I highly recommend learning how to super glide. If you don't know, you mantle an object and crouch, sprint, and jump at the exact same time, and it's gonna essentially fly you forward with a little bit more momentum, and the momentum carries through with the jetpack. Just because you have the jetpacks doesn't necessarily mean you should use them. Always remember that the audio is pretty loud on the jetpacks, even though this game doesn't have audio, and try to use it to out reposition the enemy and hopefully get some easy kills. Now, what you're seeing is a technique I like to call panic packing. Valkyrie is the best initiator legend in the game. What I mean by this is you should be the first one going into fights, and you should be doing as much damage as possible, hopefully getting a knock, and then running out of ammo, resorting to this. If you can get away safely, do it. This is a last resort effort, but if you do this, enemies will focus you in the air because you're jumping around like a madman, and hopefully your teammates will be able to get a kill. Another really important tip that I do not see a lot of Valkyrie players using is flying direct. Now, if you hold whatever your aim button is and fly at the same time, it will essentially keep you level to wherever you're flying. If you let go of your aim, it will allow you to fly upwards, but like I said before, you want to try to stay as low to the ground as possible. Let it be known, by flying like this, you will be going a little bit slower, but you're going to be using less fuel. If you do tap, every single activation of the jetpack will use a lot of fuel, but it will get you there really fast. There's a time and place for both of these techniques, and we're going to go into that a little bit more. So like I was saying, you can use your jetpacks in a couple different ways. You can use them to get somewhere very quickly and use a lot of fuel. You can conserve your fuel like you're seeing now on the screen by slowly tapping as you're about to hit the ground. And you can also use it to just hold and fly somewhere really far. I don't really recommend flying like this. However, in some cases, it'll be really important, like going up a tall place like this. As you can see, I'm doing a bunch of spins. This is super useful to just keep your body in line with where you're trying to go, and will hopefully prevent a little extra damage. It's also worth it to explain that after you cancel a jetpack, you will be very floaty and essentially in low gravity mode. You can use this to kind of have a lurch movement and not really tap strafe, but kind of move in that similar fashion as you can see here. Now, you should be aware that if you use this low gravity mode in conjunction with a zipline, you'll do floating maneuvers. This can get you killed in streamer building, but you can also use it to go far distances like you saw on screen. This is an example of a tap fly, as I like to call it, and will get you somewhere really quickly, but use all of your fuel. It should also be known that you can essentially poor man's tap strafe. What I mean by this is you can movement redirect on controller, on M&K, whatever the case may be. Essentially, you have to hold the direction that you want to go and then turn your camera to face it. and then you're going to just spin around and do a 90-degree movement redirect or 180, whatever you want. Another really important tip to note is that you can actually wall bounce and save a little bit of fuel, and also confuse enemies because they think that you'll use more fuel. In this case, I believe that the Horizon thought I was on the first floor. She was going to take height and kill me. This is kind of a niche tip, but you can actually shoot people through windows very easily on Valk. You can gauge your shot really nicely and hit shots like this. Now, for the final tip of Valkyrie's passive, this is probably the most important tip to take away. So if you take anything away from this guide, take this tip away. Valkyrie has the most consistent movement out of any legend in the game. Pathfinder, for example, can get somewhere very quickly, and Horizon can take vertical height very fast. But both of these abilities have lengthy cooldowns, whereas Valkyrie is consistently gaining back her fuel consumption. Use this passive ability to drop off height and retake it, making enemies waste their abilities trying to find you. If you utilize it correctly, you will confuse them and give yourself enough time to heal. This is one of the reasons Valkyrie is so strong. She can stall out a fight, and if you use this tactic, you can 1v1, 1v2, and 1v3 enemies very effectively. Pretty much you just have to solo out an individual, take the 1v1, and win it. Once you've healed up and reset, if the enemy is not revived, you have a chance to win the fight. Also, if you do get the 1v1 and his teammate is super far away, I would recommend thirsting immediately. This can mean an armor swap, and it pressures enemies to make a dumb move, which you can follow up on.
Not in the face.
This is a pretty good example of dropping off height and taking it back. As you can see, I'm fighting this Pathfinder. I get dropped on by a Valkyrie, so I fly up, end up killing the Valkyrie, but I drop on another enemy, so I just take height back again, and I'm safe. Okay, now let's talk about Valkyrie's tactical. Now, this ability is very versatile and can be used in a lot of different ways. As shown in this clip here, we're using it aggressively. This is where you stun an enemy, usually a solo enemy, and you just pack right onto them and get a free easy kill while they're stunned and slowed and they can't hit you. The next utilization you can use is in a defensive manner. As you can see, this Octane is chasing me. I throw it backwards to slow him down and hopefully give myself enough time to survive. Now, remember that this ability is very effective because it can deal damage to more than one person. So when you have it off cooldown, always be using it. If you're playing ranked and it's endgame, just constantly be spamming enemies. It's super annoying to play against, and it will get you a lot of damage to also level up your evil shield. Another really important thing to note is that you can blow up doors with the tactical. You want to get as close as you can and shoot it off, and just honestly pray that you'll hit the doors. It's very hit or miss. You can also use the tactical indoors if you crouch. Now, not all places will do this, and it can hit you. However, I just thought it should be mentioned. Another thing that we should mention is that these rockets do deal damage to you and stun you. So if you use them and run into a wall by accident or hit yourself behind cover, this will happen a lot, and it's very annoying. So to avoid it, you want to try to jump up before the rockets shoot, or you can jump up and backwards, but away from the wall or whatever cover this is. I recommend jumping away and backwards always. Now, I saved the best for last for this one. You can actually shoot your tactical backwards. All you have to do, look straight down, jump, and shoot your rockets. You can do this while sprinting, you can do this while sliding, but be careful when you're indoors. It kind of gets a little weird and scuffed. Outdoors, it works the best, but go on the firing range and give it a couple tries. You're going to be using this a ton. Now we're going to finish up with Valkyrie's ultimate. Now, it's a pretty simplistic ability, but there's a lot of little things that you can use to get the most out of it. First thing is, get as high as you possibly can before using the ability. As you can see, I've managed to go all the way from 5-story building all the way over to the bridge towards Lava Siphon, and there's a couple different ways that you want to utilize your airtime. Step number 1, get familiar with free look. Essentially, when you fly up in the sky, if you hold one of your triggers on controller, you will free look, which means you're going to be at a stable height. You want to keep your speed within 140 and 130, so you want to dip down and then come right back up, and you will get the maximum usage out of your flight. Now, I usually recommend people to just use your Valkyrie ultimate whenever you have it, but this is kind of with a pub mindset. If you're playing ranked, you want to play with it a little bit more conservatively. You can use it for repositioning, but you can also use it to get away from a fight. If you pair it with the Gibraltar bubble, for example, it's pretty much a free reposition away from any team. You can also use it as a scouting tool. So for example, in the late game of ranked, I tend to not have to reposition much because of the small ring, but I can just pop my ultimate, my 2 teammates are still on the ground, and I'm just providing coverage of the area and finding rats, for example, and other stuff like this. Also, I really need to place the importance. If you see an enemy team near you and you know that you can land on them, use the full distance of your ultimate. This will help you find if there's any third parties around you, and then you can circle back around and get a good position. If you're just playing Valkyrie for the first time, I hope that these tips helped you out. If you did enjoy, please be sure to drop a like and a comment. I've been working on these tips for the full amount of time that I've been playing Valkyrie, so this video has been a long time coming, so I really hope it benefited you somehow. But yeah, I really appreciate y'all, and I will hope to see you guys soon.